Hi, everyone. Cole here with our Selkirk United Church midweek message for Wednesday, May 4th, 2022. I was driving to the church yesterday and I was listening to The Current on CBC Radio, and there was a really interesting and I thought inspiring interview that host Matt Galloway was having with a famous chef. I didn't hear the whole thing, but I went to the computer later on in the day and looked up the entire transcript of the interview. If you have a chance, I'd encourage you to find it online and listen to the whole thing. But let me tell you today a little bit about it. I thought that it was definitely worth sharing with all of you today. The chef's name is Jose Andres. He made his name as a food innovator, working in famous restaurants in Spain and the United States. These days, though, he runs an organization called World Central Kitchen. You are more likely to find him in a disaster zone trying to figure out how to get food to the people who need it the most. There's a new documentary film out about Andres and his organization, directed by Ron Howard, called We Feed People. When Galloway interviewed Andres, he was actually at home, which is a rarity, but he said that he sure loves being there with his family and friends. He said the last 65 days, he'd been almost everywhere but home, almost all of it in Ukraine and the surrounding countries. Being away from home is not new for Andres. That has become his life ever since he started the World Central Kitchen back about 12 or 13 years ago now, when they began after the disaster in Haiti. The documentary film included a clip also from the Bahamas, where Andres and his group was following Hurricane Dorian in 2019. If there is some sort of disaster in the world, you can bet that he and his team will be there finding ways to feed people. Answering Matt Galloway's question about what is at the heart of what he is trying to do, Andres says, it's fairly simple. Many people think that we do the impossible in very complicated places, but even in the places where there is a scarcity of food or a scarcity of fuel, the amazing thing about humans is that we are able to overcome any challenge. I mean, that's why we're alive. Thousands of years later of human evolution. And what we do is, yeah, we find a way that we can cook or the way we can make sandwiches. It's always great. People in the worst moments of humanity, remember, the best of humanity always shows up. And the cooking is, to us, for cooks, cooking is the easy part, he says. What we do that I believe is different is that we look for the people in need. One of the happy moments, even in those hard situations for me, that's what I like to do, is getting on the car or getting on the helicopter or the truck and go to find those communities one by one, bringing food on the first contact and telling them one very simple thing. We find the leaders in those communities and we tell them, we cannot do this without you. But I promise you one thing, we'll come back tomorrow and we'll come back the day after until everything goes back to normal. That's what we do. The cooking in the kitchen, the volunteers, always happens one way or another. The food is always there. We bring it with us or we find it locally, and then we find the people in need. But at the end, it is locals taking care of locals. In Ukraine, Ukrainians are feeding Ukrainians. I'm blessed that we have an organization that would allow us to partner with them, empower them, but in the process, empowering us to do our best possible job, which is bringing food to the hungry and bringing water to the thirsty. That's it. It's got a wonderful accent too. I wish I could replicate it. In Ukraine, Andres and his crew landed there 12 hours after the war began. They began in Poland, taking care of refugees. They were in a town of 60,000 people in Poland that has helped 1.2 million Ukrainian refugees that left through that little town. Andres said, and the beauty was that every single one in that town, it seems, was doing whatever they could to provide relief in the early hours and days before anybody else was doing anything about it. It was people taking care of people. And that was actually very beautiful to see. Obviously, this was 12 hours after the war began, but the people of World Central Kitchen, in the next 2, 3, 4 days, we were already spanning all across the Polish border. Before you knew it, we were in the other countries surrounding Ukraine, Hungary and Moldova and Romania, Slovakia. Before we knew it, we were not only in those countries, but we were also inside Ukraine. Why? Because the temperatures were freezing temperatures, minus 10, 20 Celsius degrees. People were coming through 24/7. Customs, the border was overwhelmed with so many people trying to leave that on the Ukrainian side and on the receiving country side, everybody was overwhelmed. The wait could be not only hours, but days. For sure, we had to be there providing quick relief to those people that needed the hot soup, baby food, a place to be away from the cold. They partnered with local restaurants and spread to many cities across Ukraine. They were in shelters in every transit hub, train stations, bus stations. At the time of the interview, Andres said that they were serving more than 300,000 hot meals or sandwiches a day, transporting more than 8 million pounds of food. Andres gets very excited when he's talking about all of this. At one point, after listing all the countries they're in and how many distribution sites they deliver food to every day, he says, "That's what we do." He claps his hands and then he adds, "That's what we've been doing for the last 64 days. Why we do it? Because I told you, when the worst of humanity seems to be happening, the best humans show up to take care of fellow citizens. That's what we've been doing. And for me," he says, "it's been an honor to be next to the Ukrainian people, because they are amazing people that fight for democracy and liberty, not only on their behalf, but on behalf of all of us." It's not easy work and it's not safe work. One of the organization's kitchens was actually destroyed by a missile strike on April 17th, with some of the staff being injured. When asked about the risks, Andres says that they're used to it, whether it be delivering food near an active volcano site or immediately after a hurricane when weather is still bad and flying is risky, or now in the middle of a war. They are used to the risks, but he says the work is that important. He says, "We are doing whatever it takes to try to bring that kind of gesture that the plate of food brings, which is, we hear you, we see you. We are not going to leave you alone. We are not going to let you go through this alone." So obviously we've been very safe in the process, but when you are delivering food north of Kyiv, within hours after the city has been liberated from the Russian troops and, all these mines and, maybe soldiers might be somewhere that remained behind for some reason. Yeah, it is a risk, but we know we didn't put anybody in Ukraine that didn't want to be in Ukraine. And we partner with locals. Who better than locals to take care of locals, right? I think we've had more than 70,000 people in our network of restaurants and volunteers all across Ukraine. So yes, you're conscious of that, but we're not going to be ending the big problems that we face on this earth without taking some risks. In the next 25 years of my life, I want to be part of solving hunger problems around the world. He says the only way I can do this is with boots on the ground. Why? Because this is the only way I can learn. It's the only way I can be talking then to politicians, to big non-governmental organizations, NGOs, to governments, to anybody that wants to be part of the solution. I cannot talk by theory. I can only be part of the solution when I gain experience, when I listen to the people, when I see the problem firsthand. And then, only then, you can be bold enough to say, "Hey guys, we've been doing this for a long time, but still we have hunger. Still we have problems. The recipes of the past, they seem not to be working. We must do better. And we must write new recipes to provide relief to people or to end hunger in the world." This is why I go. This is why maybe, yes, maybe you put yourself in more danger than you want, but I don't know any other way. There is no way the Ukrainians are going to be fighting this alone. There's many ways to fight against injustice, he says. There's many ways. Our way, we call ourselves the food fighters. It's being next to the people that need us in this dark hour in a war that shouldn't be happening, because one man decided to create mayhem, not only in Ukraine, but indirectly around the world. We cannot let the bullies of the world, the very humans that create mayhem, to keep doing that without keeping them in check. How do we keep them in check in our way? With food. We bring love. We bring respect, one plate of food at a time. That's the only way I know how to do it. That's the only way World Central Kitchen knows how to do it. It's quite a remarkable man. When Andres was asked about the personal cost of doing all this, how he copes with it all, he said, "Yeah, I mean, I cry a lot. I'm a big boy, but yes, I'm a guy that would shed a tear here or there. And I'd prefer to be that way because it means that just like many more people like me around the world, that we care. Sometimes the tear is a way to show that you really care. What I tried to make sure is that the tear goes alongside real action." Another important aspect of World Central Kitchen is what they try to do to not only help during the emergencies themselves, but that they also try to work towards changing the systems and making a difference in the long run, long after they have left a place. So they partner with local organizations, local farmers, local greenhouse owners, beehive owners, chicken producers, fishermen, giving grants and loans, providing them with resources that they need, providing them with experts in their fields. They maintain a connection and help people to help themselves after the emergency is over, but some of the problems still remain. Let me leave you with a final thought from Chef Andres. Matt Galloway asked him, where did the idea of food as a power for good come from? Andres answers that question by saying, listen, I always say longer tables is what builds a better tomorrow, right? And this is not only a nice phrase that everybody will agree, but food is a very powerful way to create community. Why do you think we have so much attachment to food? Why do we have so much attachment to sit at the table, invite family or friends? And why do those tables in the restaurant or at home become such an important part of who we are? Think for a second, what is the first moment we receive love in the form of a tangible that stays forever with us? The first valuables that we receive as a young, tiny child is when our mother brings us to her body and gave us love in the form of food, or even our father, if our mother cannot, in the baby bottle. Food is given to us as love. That love that we receive from the hands of our loved ones, it stays with us forever. That is why food is such an amazing way we all have to show others we love them, we care, and we welcome them into our world. Love will always be that way. That will be shown through food. That's what food means to me. He says, I know that's what food means. We can all show respect to others, making sure that we share those longer tables. We can all show respect to others, believing that high walls are not going to be solving the problems of the world. But the only way we're going to be taking care of the world is when we invite everybody to the table, where the bounty of the goodness of the earth must be enjoyed by all, must be shared by all. That's what food means to me, and I hope that's what it means to all of us. That was Chef Jose Andres, chef and founder of World Central Kitchen. And that is this week's edition of Selkirk United Church's midweek message. Hope it lifted your spirits and gave you some hope today. Blessings to you all and hope to see you soon. Bye for now.